You know who would greenlight a terrible decision like a Star Wars Christmas special if he thought it would make money? Bob Chapek. Now, we talk about Chapek a lot and how he's ruining Disney quite a bit on the show, but it's gotten worse. Like, we wouldn't talk about this if there wasn't something to talk about. And boy, did Hollywood Reporter just basically light a match and just set a big old fire over at Disney as they wrote a very, very interesting and scathing report basically about the, I don't want to say lost friendship because that implies that they were ever like friends more than just coworkers, but the fractured relationship between the Bobs. Bob Iger, the departing Disney CEO and currently the head of the board, and the new Disney CEO Bob Chapek. This was a fascinating article that I got sent to me, and it was very, very eye-opening. It's been no secret that I do not like Chapek, and a lot of the Disney community does not like Chapek, and a lot of the Hollywood industry does not like Chapek. Well, it seems like Iger does not like Chapek either. So the basic gist of this Hollywood Reporter article was Iger took to the stage at a employee retreat, kind of like the higher up employees, like the board members and everything else, at one of Disney's newest like resorts in Hawaii, Alani, I believe, and basically said like, sure, we can do all this great stuff and everything else, but we can't always just look at the data and the research and everything else. Everything comes from a place of creativity, which a lot of people in the room took as a shot at Chapek, who is very data and analytics driven. And Iger basically said, if we just looked at the data and the analytics, we wouldn't have had movies like Black Panther or Shang-Chi or Coco. And he's absolutely right, because before Black Panther, you could always, quote unquote, look at the stats and say that people don't care about black superheroes, which is absolutely not true. Or you could look at, as much as we don't like Captain Marvel, you could look at the charts and say, well, female superhero movies don't do well, so we won't make them because of like Catwoman or Supergirl. That's clearly not true. So where this gets interesting then is after Iger said that and the room was kind of like, okay, cool, good send-off message for Iger, Chapek kind of gets to the stand and said, more or less in his own terms, reinforces, no, Disney now is a data-driven company. Like, we will look at the charts, we will look at the stats. I'm just going, oh boy, the world is about to be set on fire, and I'm gonna get my popcorn ready, as Lane Kiffin would say.
Yeah.
Wow. Like,
It's a really interesting article, man. Like,
lengthy article, too.
very, yeah. It took a little bit to get through. And like some of the people that were like defending Chapek in the article, they kind of quote them as like, no, like I understand how it can be taken, but that's literally just how Chapek talks and all that. And it was like, yeah, but you don't hear how tone deaf that is to have the outgoing CEO be like, hey, like we need to respect creativity and not always be like, and not use the data to drive our decisions, and creativity should come first and all that. And then your incoming CEO is just quote unquote being himself, excuse me, and is like, yeah, no, we're gonna be data driven. Like, how do you not like see that as a backhand to the outgoing CEO? You know what I mean? Like that's just.
When I read it, it's a very, very obscure reference, but for those who'll get it, it's like those that watch the Nostalgia Critic shorts when I used to. It's like the chart says guy. That's exactly who Bob Chapek is. He's the guy that'll always go, well, the chart says. No.
Yeah.
What does your heart say? Well,
Yeah.
the chart says, like,
No.
I've said this even before he got appointed, and I was raising all the red flags that he would not be Disney CEO. For those people out there that are kind of sick and tired of the Disney remakes, those will not stop with Chapek. Those will increase with Chapek because he will only look at the numbers. He will not see that people aren't really responding to them to super, super well. Like, they're not getting the best of critical reception. He'll just go, oh, cool, they're making us money. And that's essentially all Chapek cares about. I was talking to one of my friends at work about this who used to work for the company, but has now worked with my job, and he's noticeably happier. I wonder why that is. But he talked about basically his theory is he's Chapek is trying to make up all the lost money from COVID, all basically in the span of a year. I'm just going, we need to make all that money back now. I'm going, no, I think he's hiding behind the pandemic as an excuse to do all this extra stuff.
Yeah.
I know Josh is not in the theme park bubble, but now Disney had fast passes, basically, like free to everybody, but it was kind of like a first come, first serve thing. Now fast passes are a pay per ride experience that they're implementing in the next week or two. That the prices will depend on the day and how busy everything is, but they're charging things for people that have not been charged before. There's no creativity. They opened 3 new shows for the big 50th anniversary. Like Disney World turns 50 this year. All 3 shows suck. They're terrible. And one of them, I know for a fact, because it's come out in interviews, one of them was actually Chapek's idea. Because he went, oh yeah, people love Disney songs. Why don't we do a sing-along show? And I'm going,
Why?
that's your most creativity. That's your most creative idea. Really? Like, Iger had his faults, but he let the creators be creative. Was it in the same article, Josh, that they talked about the differences between the two people? Like, when supposedly when Iger would come up to people in the cafeteria, he would ask them about, like, oh, did you see this interesting Netflix documentary? Or did you watch this new film? Or, like, he would engage with people, and he had his ear to the ground, and he was always seeking creative outlets. Chapek, there is none of that. He distances himself from everyone around him, except for the people that say yes. Like, we'll talk about in our next news topic. He's basically taking out people under Iger's regime and very, very quickly replacing them with his own people, and it's not going to work out well. He's doing short-term gains that are going to hurt the company long-term, and I think it's bad that it's so public so quickly. Whenever you change power in any company, there's going to be a difference. There's a huge difference when Steve Jobs passed away and Tim Cook took over. As much as Apple's still a dominant force, Tim Cook is no Steve Jobs. Like, he's just Tim Cook. He's doing the best he can. But I will still at least say this, that Tim Cook, I feel like, at least respects the legacy of Steve Jobs, and at least he's trying to continue it, but he's still trying to make his own signature thing. Chapek is just throwing the middle finger to Iger's legacy and going, nope, I have Disney now, and it's mine. Like, weird nitpick here, but for the 50th anniversary fireworks at Magic Kingdom, your big flagship park, the most recognizable theme park in the world, you introduce a new fireworks show. Isn't it a little wrong that all the movies referenced in it are from the past 20 to 15 years? There's no Mickey Mouse, no Walt Disney, no classic characters. There's nothing from the old. Chapek only cares about the present and the current, which is not a good sign. Again, you have to learn your history or else you're doomed to repeat it. Like, we talk about Chapek all the time on the show, but it's because he keeps sticking his foot in the mud and making things worse. Now, we're going to miss Iger real bad real quick here. And the fact that normally theme park stuff is very niche and the mainstream will not report on it. But the fact that we're getting like Hollywood Reporter and Deadline talking about the rift between these two already is a damning indictment on the Disney name right now. The Disney brand is not in a good state right now, which is a shame because it's one of the biggest in the world.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I don't want to freak out too quickly and be like, Disney's going to go down the drain, blah, blah, blah. Like, at the end of the day, you still have Disney diehards that love the park, will pay all the money for
who are in
Disney.
such denial right now. It's frustrating.
It really is. So we'll see what happens, but give or take 5 years, I think. I don't know if Disney will be as big as it is unless something big happens.